Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today we're talking about my final build for the Magifox. Alright, threshold matter, I'll just apologize for not getting a video out to you sooner. We're pretty deep into our KVK and we've been fighting more or less for, about 10 days straight now. Dragon Zone hasn't even opened yet. You can see it opens up here in about 4.5 days. And basically we're trying to hold on to be able to go into Dragon Zone. Don't really love these map designs where, one side can get, locked out. But it is what it is. We're having some real good fights. We'll see if we can hold on or not, or even if we can't hold on, if we can get into the Dragon Zone in time to make a difference. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the final build for the Magifox. So I was really struggling with the build for the Magifox here, and the main reason I was struggling was the follow-up package. All right, now obviously follow-up, that's your secondary damage source for your magic pets. Follow-up always has a few weaknesses to it. The first weakness is that it only has a 40% base chance to cast, but you can remedy that with advanced follow-up. So follow-up really wants you to have both follow-up and advanced follow-up on it to get that trigger chance up. Advanced follow-up, obviously that's an Ember skill. If you have it at 3 stars with a good luck, you can get the follow-up chance to about 100%. All right, so that's pretty easy to remedy, not too difficult. The other skill card here, just Intense Follow-Up. I've never been a big fan of Intense Follow-Up because it increases the crit rate only of the follow-up cast. And that basically is going to be your secondary damage source in the pet, and why waste one skill card just to increase the damage on your secondary source? So I don't like Intense Follow-Up, but I do traditionally like Advanced Follow-Up. I think that is a good skill. All right, that's weakness number one. Weakness number two is that the damage on Follow-Up tends to be less than the main cast, whatever that is. Now you can see the damage here. It's 5.4%, but it's 0 stars. You can see it's 25% at 3 stars. But once again, that's not taking into the intelligence attribute of your pet. If you have a 3-star follow-up and you have basically a maxed out intelligence, the follow-up cast is basically on par with the main cast. Okay, so those are your first two weaknesses. The third weakness, and we'll come back to this, is follow-up is an intelligence skill, and you're really fighting for intelligence slots on most magic pets, and that was really the issue for this pet, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. The fourth weakness of follow-up is it goes off last, right? So remember how the rage cycle works. Your primary casts their rage skill, like let's say it's Varden, then your deputy, whoever that is, casts their rage skill, then the pet casts its rage skill, then you wait basically 1 second in between the pet's rage skill and the follow-up cast. So you have to build up your rage bar, go through all of the, the primary, secondary, pet's rage skill, and then you get the follow-up cast off. And in the open field, there's a lot of times that doesn't happen, okay? Now, if you're in other situations, like you're in a keep sometimes, or like you're rallying with these heroes, and I do actually think that the mage rally with the G5 heroes is kind of interesting, then that's not such a weakness. But in open field, right, you're moving back and forth all the time, you're moving out of range, your target's moving out of range. So very frequently you don't get all your rage skills off, and if you're going to miss one, it's going to be the follow-up cast. So that is a weakness to this pet. Okay. So those are just your generic weaknesses to follow up, but there was a couple other things with this pet in particular that made follow up a bit weaker. And the first is the mechanics of Foxfire, right? Foxfire is one of these mechanics where you build up little stacks as you go through. Basically this time, anytime you inflict a debuff versus your innate skill, you build up a stack of Phantasm Mark, and the more stacks of those you have, obviously max 5, you ignore more and more of your target's defense with the pet skill cast. The problem with these build-up token mechanics is that follow-up is a recast of Foxfire, and so if you have follow-up, your initial Foxfire goes off, it clears all your stacks of Phantasm Mark. This goes off, Foxfire goes off, there's a 1 second pause, and then the follow-up cast goes off. You probably don't have a lot of stacks of Phantasm Mark, and if you do have any stacks of Phantasm Mark, the follow-up cast clears them, and so your next cast of Foxfire is going to be 1 or 2 or whatever less. Obviously, you can get up to 5, but unless you're getting a lot of debuffs, the follow-up cast is always going to be weaker, and to the extent it gets any, it's going to rob your main cast. Okay, that's problem number one. Problem number two is on the Magifox, you really have your damage split between Foxfire itself and Intense Foxfire, Remember, I think Intense Foxfire is very good. Basically, anytime you get one of these stacks, you do damage with Intense Foxfire. And if these are all scaled up, these are comparable, right? The Intense Foxfire damage actually approaches the Foxfire damage. That's really good. Now, the fair point here is Intense Foxfire is extremely expensive. If you want to, even 2 stars, it's a good bit of investment. And if you want to make this 3 stars, you're really talking a very, very expensive pet. Okay, so I went through this whole long soliloquy on why I don't really like follow-up, in particular for the Magifox. So what's the issue, right? Why don't you just cut follow-up and call it a day? Well, there's one last problem here, and that's you just run out of good skill cards for the pet damage build on this pet. All right, let's say you've got 8 skill slots. You have these 3, skills specific to the pet: Foxfire, Advanced Foxfire, Intense Foxfire. Pretty obvious. Then you have the 4-card pet damage package and the 3-card follow-up package. Okay, that's, you got 8 slots, 3 plus 3 plus 4. What's the issue? Well, the issue is if you don't take follow-up, neither advanced follow-up nor intense follow-up works. Let's say you cut follow-up. Then you've got Resonance, Magic Fortune, Magic Spirits, Elemental Harmony. Now you're at 7. Okay, what are you putting in the last slot? And the answer is there's not really a good card for that last slot if you cut the follow-up package. And so that was really holding me back. But at the end of the day, I decided it was worth it anyways, right? This is, I think, is the correct build for the Magifox with 8 slots with, basically evenly distributed stats here. You can see my stats are all S tier. None of them are really high S tier, but this is pretty good, and I'm not going to re-roll this. I decided to cut follow-up. I don't think it's great. Now, like I said, I want to put one big caveat on here. If you intend to rally with this pet, and I do think the Magic Rally is viable, provided you can stop it from being swarmed, then the follow-up argument becomes much stronger. But if you don't intend to rally with this pet, and then, keeps are good too, but if you're just mostly open fielding with this pet, I think you cut follow-up because you want both Elemental Harmony and Advanced Foxfire benefiting the Foxfire cast, and then obviously Elemental Harmony itself also benefits the Intense Foxfire cast, as do these other generic magic damages. So what do you want with the last slot? I went with Outburst of Rage. I have a pretty good agility score here. Outburst of Rage, it is good for these guys. It is going to make them go through the rage cycle more quickly. It's a cheap skill, so I'll probably bump this up to 3 stars at some point just because it doesn't cost that much to do it. I do think there is one other pretty interesting choice here, and it's a luck-based card, and that's Gentle Breeze here, right? Gentle Breeze has a chance to dispel buff from the target. Basically, these guys are really interested in hitting infantry and stripping the defense from infantry. Gentle Breeze can also strip like the HP buff, for example, from Akuma. I'm not going to go off an amazing amount of time, but it will go off every so often, and it'll have pretty powerful effects. Like I said, I didn't go that way, even with a pretty good spirit. My spirit's better than my agility here. I think either is a valid pick for that 8 slot. Anyway, this is my Magifox build, right? You can see I'm still working on it. I'll eventually move the talent skill up to 3 stars. It'll take me a while, but whatever. And I'll probably move the rest of these skills up to 2 stars. Like I said, Outburst of Rage I could see going to 3 stars just because it's not that expensive. I've been playing around with these guys a bit. I have Varden built out pretty well here. I'm still working on his G5 partner. Haven't built the tree out very much. But I'm getting some pretty good results already. I think they are pretty powerful. Now, for the open field, are they better than Young Ming? I'm not there yet, but I think they're at least the second best mages out there. And they have better viability for, in particular, the rallies. So I do think they are worth investing, if you are a mage main, if that's the way you're planning to go. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. And until next time, you stay classy, Belleron.